Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a topic that's been requested for a while now. And it's a fascinating one.
Yeah.
We're going to be looking at Agent Smith
Oh, yeah.
from The Matrix.
Classic.
A lot of you have sent in some really great material about him, specifically about his motivations throughout the trilogy. And whether any of his arguments, the things he says about humanity, whether those actually hold any water.
It's interesting because he starts off, as this program just enforcing the rules of the Matrix.
Right.
But then he kind of evolves into something much more complex.
Yeah, he definitely goes through quite a transformation
He does.
over the course of the films.
Yeah.
And I think one of the best places to kind of start with this is that really iconic scene where he's interrogating Morpheus.
Right.
And he gives that whole speech about humans being a virus.
Yes.
Now, you pointed out, and this is really interesting, there's some actual ecological context to what he's saying there.
Yeah. Yeah, if you think about it, like some of the things that he's saying do actually echo real-world concerns that we have about our own impact on the planet.
Okay.
Like, deforestation or pollution, overconsumption, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So when you look at it through that lens, it's not a completely unfounded observation.
I mean, he's a program, so I'm not sure how much he actually knows about the real world.
Right. He's drawing on something.
Yeah, it is sort of reflecting, that idea that humanity can be pretty destructive.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is he right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that a valid point?
I mean, that's where things get really interesting because a virus, right, operates purely on instinct.
Okay.
It's driven to replicate and consume.
Right.
But it doesn't have any awareness. It doesn't think about the consequences of its actions.
Okay.
Humans, on the other hand, we have that capacity for self-awareness and for making choices.
Right.
We can look at a problem like climate change and actively work towards solutions, like investing in sustainable energy, protecting endangered species, trying to reduce our overall impact on the planet. Yeah. So it's not just blind consumption.
That's a really important distinction, I think.
It is.
Because he's using that, that label of a virus to justify some pretty horrific actions.
Yeah.
And you drew some pretty unsettling parallels in the material that you sent.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way Smith dehumanizes humans in order to justify controlling them, it really mirrors tactics that have been used by oppressive regimes throughout history.
Oh, wow.
If you think about totalitarian states, often they'll use language to demonize certain groups of people.
Right.
Label them as enemies or threats.
Right, to kind of make it easier to other people to turn on them.
Exactly. It's a way to make violence and control seem palatable.
Yeah, like it's necessary.
Yeah, even necessary.
Wow. It's a chilling thought.
It is.
Think about how language can be used like that. But okay, so Smith's goals, they seem to change a bit after he has that whole encounter with Neo.
Right.
When he's sort of, quote unquote, killed by Neo.
Yeah, it's like a twisted kind of rebirth for him because he gains this strange kind of freedom, but his focus shifts.
Yeah.
It's no longer just about maintaining the Matrix.
It's like he's not satisfied with just being a cog in the machine anymore.
Exactly.
Right? And there's that great line where he says to Neo, I want what you want.
Yes.
I want everything. What do you think he means by that? By everything?
I think that statement really gets to the heart of his transformation.
Okay.
Because he's not just rebelling against the machines anymore. He's craving something more.
Yeah.
He wants absolute dominance.
So it's not even really about freedom at that point.
I don't think so.
It's about power.
Yeah. It reflects this desire for unlimited growth and control.
Which is ironic because that's something that he accuses humanity of.
Right. It's like he's become a dark reflection of the very thing that he despises.
Exactly. And that's where I think we start to see the flaws in his logic.
Yeah, the inherent contradiction at the core of what he wants.
So you're saying that wanting everything actually sets him up for failure?
In a way, yes.
Okay.
Because this is where we get to this fascinating paradox.
Okay.
If Smith achieves total control, if he truly becomes everything, then his existence loses all meaning.
Oh, wow.
There's nothing left to consume, to dominate, to control.
Yeah, he's like a virus that destroys its host.
Right.
And then has nothing left.
It ultimately leads to its own demise.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
That's a really interesting point.
What's the point of being a virus if there's nothing left to infect?
It's like his whole plan kind of backfires on him in a way.
Yeah, it's self-defeating.
Yeah.
And there's that part where he describes feeling trapped, like saturated by the Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Even fearing that he's been infected by humanity's stink.
Oh, yeah. This is after he's taken over Bane's body, right?
Exactly.
So he's like literally embodying
a human form at that point.
He is.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, and it reveals this like deep-seated loathing that he has, but also this sense of being imprisoned by the very system he wants to control.
Yeah, he's repulsed by humanity, but also terrified of becoming like us in a way.
Right.
Like he wants to escape the Matrix,
Yeah.
but he has no idea what true freedom would even look like.
It's like he's trapped in this loop
Yeah.
of wanting to destroy the thing that he hates, but also being drawn to it.
Yeah. And it raises the question of, do these programs actually have free will?
Right.
Like he's clearly making his own choices.
He is.
He's broken free from the system in a way, but
Is that real choice?
yeah, is he just a puppet of his programming, or can he genuinely deviate from his intended function?
Well, I mean, if you look at his evolution after that first encounter with Neo,
Okay.
it does suggest that these programs aren't static.
Okay.
They can adapt, they can change, they can even develop their own sense of purpose,
Okay.
however twisted that purpose may be.
So it raises this whole other question about what free will even means.
Yeah, especially in a simulated reality like the Matrix,
Exactly.
right, where everything is ultimately controlled by code.
Yeah, it's like a whole other layer of the simulation.
Yeah, so maybe his programming provides a framework, but within that, he has the capacity to make choices.
To shape his own destiny.
But if that's the case, why choose the path of destruction?
That's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, why not join forces with Neo and Morpheus?
Right.
Because their goals did seem to align at a certain point.
Yeah, I mean, think about Smith's journey for a second. He's existed as an enforcer of a system that he hates.
Right.
Forced to suppress any individuality or emotion.
Okay.
So when he's finally freed, it's like this huge release,
Mm.
but it's also a rebellion that's driven by rage and resentment.
Okay.
Instead of building something new, he's trying to destroy the source of his pain.
So instead of joining forces to create a better world,
Right.
he's blinded by his anger.
His desire for revenge.
Yeah, he wants to tear down the system that wronged him.
Even if it means destroying everything in the process.
And meanwhile, you have the Oracle who seems to understand him better than anyone.
Yeah, she's fascinating.
Yeah, because it seems like she's not just predicting the future, she's actively shaping it.
She's playing the long game.
Yeah. She anticipates Smith's moves and even allows him to replicate,
Right.
knowing that it will ultimately be his downfall.
She's using his own ambition against him.
So by letting him think he's winning,
Mm-hmm.
she's actually setting a trap.
Leading him right into his own destruction.
It's like she's a chess master,
Exactly.
carefully manipulating the board to orchestrate a checkmate.
But what's her end game?
Right. What is she actually trying to achieve?
It seems like her goal is to maintain the balance of the Matrix,
Okay.
even if it requires these seemingly chaotic events.
So Smith's rampage,
Yeah.
while destructive, acts as a catalyst for change
A necessary disruption.
to help the system evolve.
Exactly.
So even though Smith's motives are purely selfish, his actions inadvertently contribute to the evolution of the Matrix.
That's the irony of it all.
Yeah, that's pretty mind-blowing.
It is.
When you think about it, it makes you wonder if even the most destructive forces can serve a purpose.
It's all about perspective, I guess.
Yeah, and you also highlighted this really interesting comparison in the material that you sent.
Oh, yeah.
You liken Smith to the figure of Satan.
It's an interesting parallel.
Yeah, I mean, how so?
Well, they both represent this rebellion against authority,
Right.
this rejection of the established order,
Right.
but their actions are driven by pride, arrogance, a hunger for power.
And that ultimately leads to their downfall.
Exactly. They choose the path of isolation and destruction instead of embracing collaboration and creation.
So they both fall victim to that lure of power.
Yeah, believing that they know better,
Right.
that they can control everything.
But in doing so, they cut themselves off from any possibility of redemption.
It's a classic tragic arc.
It is. It really is. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about, the paradox of Smith's desire for everything, the question of free will within a simulated reality,
Right.
this destructive path that he chooses,
Yeah.
the Oracle's strategic brilliance in using his chaos for a greater purpose. But there's one more aspect of Smith that I want to explore,
Okay.
and that's this idea that he represents something deeper,
Okay.
like the kind of shadow self.
Oh, interesting.
And you brought up the concept of the shadow self and some of the material, like the psychological analyses of Smith.
Oh, yeah.
Such a fascinating idea. Can you kind of unpack that for us a little bit?
Sure. So the shadow self, it's this concept in psychology that refers to those hidden or repressed aspects of our personality,
Okay.
the parts of ourselves that we deny or reject.
Right.
And it often embodies those qualities that we deem, negative or unacceptable,
Like what kinds of things?
like our fears, our anger, aggression, our darker impulses, all that stuff.
So you're saying that Smith might represent Neo's shadow self,
Exactly.
like all those negative qualities that Neo's trying to suppress or overcome.
Right. It's like Smith embodies that potential for darkness that exists within Neo.
Okay.
That possibility that he could succumb to his anger, give in to hatred, and ultimately choose that path of control and domination.
Wow. So their final confrontation becomes more than just a battle between these two powerful entities.
Right.
It's like a battle for Neo's soul,
Yeah,
a struggle to overcome his own inner darkness.
exactly. And, on a broader scale, you could even say that Smith represents humanity's collective shadow self.
Okay, how so?
Well, he embodies our capacity for destruction, our greed, our willingness to exploit others and dominate the world around us.
So it's like by facing Smith, Neo isn't just fighting for his own freedom.
Right.
He's fighting for the redemption of humanity itself.
Exactly. He's trying to overcome those forces that threaten to consume us all.
Wow. That's a powerful way to look at it.
It is.
It makes you think about what it really means to defeat our shadow selves.
Right.
Is it about annihilation? Like wiping out those negative aspects completely?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it more about integration? Like
Right.
finding a way to acknowledge and manage those darker impulses?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is. It's a question that philosophers and psychologists have been grappling with for centuries.
Yeah. Can we ever truly overcome our shadow selves, or do we just have to learn to live with them?
Right, to find some kind of balance.
Exactly.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
Yeah.
We've explored so many layers of Agent Smith's character.
We have.
That whole virus analogy, his desire for purpose, the paradox of wanting everything,
Right.
the echoes of totalitarian rhetoric,
Yeah.
the whole philosophical debate about free will, the oracle's strategic brilliance. And now this concept of the shadow self.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding, not just of Agent Smith,
Yeah.
but of the Matrix itself.
And that's the beauty of exploring these complex themes.
It is.
It challenges us to think critically, to question our assumptions, and to see the world in new and unexpected ways.
Absolutely.
And Smith's journey, though ultimately destructive,
Yeah.
it forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the choices that we make.
You've definitely given me a lot to think about. I might need to rewatch the whole trilogy now with fresh eyes.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah, looking for all these hidden layers and deeper meanings.
And as you think about this,
Okay.
if Smith represents our shadow self, what does it really mean to confront and overcome those darker aspects of ourselves?
Right.
Is it a battle that we can never truly win, or is it an ongoing process of negotiation and integration?
That's a fantastic question to leave our listeners with.
It is.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Agent Smith and the philosophical depths of the Matrix.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll be back soon with another deep dive into a new topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.